Hello and welcome to the Supercast. I'm your host, Superintendent Anthony Godfrey. It was recently Navy Week at Hidden Valley Middle School, where students had a chance to dive deeply into ocean STEM careers. On this episode of the Supercast, discover why the U.S. Navy visited a number of Utah schools and why the Navy sees students as the future of solving some of the ocean's most challenging problems. We talk with U.S. Navy officers and civilians who explain why they want to help Utah middle school students find a passion for the oceans and possibly discover a career they might not have considered while living in the desert. We're here at Hidden Valley Middle School talking with several representatives from the U.S. Navy who have been visiting our classrooms to talk with some of our students in science classes, and I'm really excited to have a chance to talk with you. Please introduce yourselves, where you're from, and just a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Well, glad to be here. Name's Lieutenant Amanda Weber. I am originally from Maryland, but call Stevensville, Montana home now. I have been in the Navy for about 6 years. I started off my career in the Navy as a meteorology and oceanography officer. I've currently done 3 tours in the Navy with that community, and currently right now work in Monterey, California. I've got a degree in biochemistry and then my master's in cybersecurity.
All right, morning. Thanks for having us. My name is Lieutenant J.G. Corinne Flory. So I've been in the Navy for about 2 years now. So I'm also in METOC, or meteorology and oceanography. I come from a small town about an hour north of New York City called Mahopac, New York. And in college, I studied space science and engineering.
Good morning, Lieutenant Serena Gardner. I'm from Santa Maria, California. I've been in the Navy for about 7 years. I spent my first tour as a surface warfare officer, or SWO, driving warships out in Japan. And then for the last 3 years, I've been also doing meteorology and oceanography. I'm currently stationed at Stennis Space Center, Mississippi, where our headquarters is, and I have degrees in both chemical engineering and a master's in business.
Hi, my name is Tara Yoakum. I am from Covington, Louisiana, South Louisiana. I have 2 degrees in coastal science and coastal engineering. I started working for the Navy about 3 years ago, and I'm still living in the same area.
Well, it's great to have all of you and very nice to meet each of you. Tell me about what drew you to the Navy. What got you interested in being part of this?
So I originally wanted to join the Army as a pharmacist, ironically enough. Clearly did not go that route. But I had both of my grandpas were in World War II. One of them was a meteorologist, and the other one was in the Navy as a radar man. So kind of merged the two, and here I am as a meteorologist in the Navy.
Yeah, so for me, I was spending my time in engineering school kind of learning not only all the technical matter that I needed to for my degree, but learning a little bit about the pathway of what being an engineer looks like. And to be completely honest, I just couldn't see myself doing that job for my entire life. I felt kind of called to something a little bit, hopefully, more out there, more adventurous, out in the field. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to serve my country. So I definitely felt interested in the military, and that's kind of what drew me toward it.
So mine is definitely a combination of factors. My grandfather was career Army, so I grew up hearing all of his stories about his experiences in Europe, and then my brother is career Marines. He's older than me and definitely was a big influence on my selection of military life. However, Navy was a much better fit for me than the Marines or the Army, specifically because of its focus on STEM. The STEM opportunities, especially for a female in the Navy, are a lot more diverse than any other branch. So that was definitely my influence there.
So as a civilian, I want to say prior to 3 years ago, I didn't even know that was an option. The Navy came into the University of New Orleans and was looking to hire scientists, and I happened to be on that list. And I actually really love my job now. I get to help the Navy with search and rescue and make models for currents and tides, and I like it a lot.
Tell me about helping the Navy with search and rescue. What does that involve? What are some of the things you do related to that?
So I build these models that predict the tides and currents, and if somebody is overboard or something is overboard, then since I can predict the currents, I run the models and try to figure out where that person might be.
so that when they start to search, they know where to search based on the predictions you've done of where the tides and currents are headed.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what is involved in being an oceanographer or meteorologist for the Navy? What are some of the things you're doing day to day when you're not in 8th grade classrooms?
So I will say that the great thing about being in the Navy is that you, especially in the uniform, is that you move incredibly frequently. So with that move comes normally a change in job, and that can be a minor shift or a major shift. So I've been lucky enough to do 3 jobs that I feel like don't really have much in common, except for the fact that I've had the same essential title. So my first job, I did a lot of atmospheric and oceanographic forecasting across the globe, and I did that for aviation platforms, so helicopters, jets, P-8s, so like the big, large airplanes that pretty much mimic Boeing planes.
Tell me a little bit more about that. You're predicting the weather before they're taking flight in a particular direction, or how does that work exactly?
Yes, sir. So pilots in the Navy traditionally are required to have this piece of paper that records where they're going to fly and then the actual conditions that they're going to see when they're in flight, as well as other locations that they can land if they were to encounter an issue during flight. So we, as meteorologists, create that report and allow for them to take off safely and then have additional options if they do need to land in an emergency.
I really need you on snow days this winter. Can I just call and have you look at things and tell me at 3:30 in the morning whether I should call a snow day or not? If I could ask these students at the back of the room, they're always going to say yes, it ought to be a snow day. But I think I need Navy level support for my snow day decisions.
So if you think that your local meteorologists are off key with
Now,
calling
wait a minute.
snow days,
I said nothing against our local meteorologists. I'm just standing here. You've got the uniform. You guys have all these degrees. I'm just thinking I could get a little backup.
I say a lot of things very confidently when it comes to weather forecasts.
Yes.
However, it is the one job in the universe where you can consistently be wrong and still have a job.
You're off the hook. You don't have to help with the snow days. I will shoulder that responsibility alone.
You can put me on like speed dial number 9 if you really need backup, but I would definitely not be the first call.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Describe some of the other jobs. You started with the first one that you do.
Yes, I apologize. We got a little bit off kilter there.
That's my fault.
No, that's fine. I've done a lot. So, yeah, started off doing all of that forecasting. So we did aviation, surface, and subsurface. So all assets that the Navy owns, we forecasted for. And then I was at that job for about 2 years, left there, and I actually went to a mine warfare command in the Middle East. So we actually lived in Bahrain for 2 years. And I worked for the component of the Navy that did mine warfare and expeditionary mine countermeasures. So pretty much we had to forecast for the surface of the ocean and underneath, learn a lot about the currents and bottom types, so certain different types of sediments, how they carry sound or how they bury things, and then hunt for mines all throughout that. So that was really fun. Got to watch a lot of things get blown up pretty much for 2 years.
Wow.
A lot of fun. And then came back from that and now work in my current job where we do all of our atmospheric and oceanographic modeling. So we have all of these supercomputers that run millions of calculations every hour to make sure that we know what is going on for about 70 different types of measurements in a multitude of different layers all across the globe.
A multitude of different layers. You talked about subsurface, so what's going on underneath the surface of the ocean, on the surface, and atmosphere. And I never would have thought of it that way. I only think about the surface of the ocean. Fortunately, there are people like you that think below the surface. So that's quite a range of jobs. How about for you? Have you done tell me about your day-to-day.
Yeah, so my day-to-day, Lieutenant Weber and I work at the same command, FINMOC. So essentially what we're doing is we're kind of the liaisons between any asset that's out in the fleet. Mostly it's ships. And we're kind of the connecting point between them and our civilian SMEs who are running those models and operating the supercomputers to get them that output of what they need. So in a sense, like we kind of speak the military language. So anything that they need to support their mission planning or exercises, we just help them get their products so that they can be safe out there and get the job done.
Okay. And how about for you? What are some of the jobs you're involved in?
So my day-to-day is actually quite different than these other ladies. So I work at the headquarters staff. So on a daily, I am prepping reports and summaries for the Admiral of the entire METOC community. So that's everything from knowing where all of our assets are on every ship in every country, where any METOC personnel are located, because that's what he cares about. We're also tracking where all of our oceanographic vessels and what the surveys that they're doing, if they're having any problems. That's also something we track. If we have any issues with gliders, as Ms. Tara was saying before, and we need to go pick it up or request help from another organization, that's also something we do. So that's kind of on a daily, where we're constantly measuring that drumbeat of where we are with our assets and what else needs to happen to support the larger Navy missions.
Stay with us. When we come back, we explore some exciting technology the Navy officers are sharing with Hidden Valley Middle School students.
Does your student want to become a veterinarian, commercial pilot, programmer? Maybe they want to make a difference as a dental assistant, work in digital media, robotics, welding, or web design. These are some of the programs offered as part of Career and Technical Education, CTE, in Jordan School District. CTE provides the technical skills needed to prepare students for future employment and/or a successful transition to post-secondary education. Career and Technical Education provides work-based learning opportunities. We partner with industry experts to offer apprenticeships and internships with students working in the real world at real jobs while going to school. The CTE experience starts in our elementary schools with the Kids Marketplace and grows through middle and high school. Our two Jordan Academy for Technology and Careers, JATC campuses, offer unique programs to fit your child's dreams for the future. To explore all CTE has to offer in Jordan School District, visit cte.jordandistrict.org today, and let's get your child started on the pathway to a profession.
Is the Kraken real?
No comment.
You can't tell me? Okay. All right. Once we turn the microphone off, we're going to talk Kraken. But right now, let's talk about these devices right here that you have.
Yes, sir. So we have brought with us a very small deployable buoy as well as an expendable bathythermograph. So again, why we use
back up. An expendable bathythermograph?
Bathy.
Bathy. Oh, I
Thermograph.
almost got there. Okay.
So the really great thing about all of these acronyms is that's why we use them. It makes things a lot easier. So we actually call this an XBT, so we do not have to say that every time.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes. So we'll start with the buoy. So the buoy you'll see is relatively large compared to the XBT that we've got next to it, because this is something that we'll deploy on the surface of the ocean. It's got some of those solar panels around the side because that's actually how it's going to continuously power itself, because it does have an iridium capability to send the data that it's collecting back to us so that it can stay in the ocean, continue to collect, and then we can still get the data real time. So You'll see that it's yellow just mostly so that when either ships or smaller fishing vessels or whatever are operating in the area that it's deployed in, know that it's there, can see it, and should theoretically leave it alone. We'll also notice on the top of it, this was a question that we got in a lot of the classrooms we've been in this week, is that there's a QR code. In some portions of the world, you'll see this, and you might get kind of a nefarious thought that it's not a very nice thing. But if you scan this QR code, it actually shows up that it is a buoy, it is collecting oceanographic data, it is not harmful, and to please leave it alone and leave it where it is.
I'm going to scan the QR code right now.
It's perfect. It brings you
Let's
directly.
pretend I was just snorkeling around in the middle of the ocean.
It tells you that it is a data collecting entity.
Oh, it's a spotter.
It
Very
is.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, it works.
It
Great.
does work.
All right, that makes sense.
So it measures a lot of our surface levels. So it measures either really close to the surface for wind components, or it can also measure sea components as well. But it's going to measure everything there on the surface where it's actually floating. And then that's where this XBT kind of comes into play, is it collects the data that a buoy cannot. So this is actually deployed off of aircrafts and ships all around the globe, breaking down kind of what the XBT actually stands for. So that first term, expendable. So this is something that we use once, and also if it gets damaged in the deployment, it's not something that we need to retrieve.
Okay.
The bathy part allows for us to measure the actual depth of the water column that we're dropping it in, and then the thermograph means that the specific measurement that we're taking with depth is temperature. So this allows for us to calculate sound speed in the water column. because the three things that the Navy is majorly concerned about when we're talking about oceanographic or undersea operations is sound speed. I want to know how far and how fast and how well my sound is going to travel. And the three major components that make up that calculation is pressure, which comes directly from depth, salinity, which unfortunately this does not measure, but we do have other ones or other capabilities to measure that, and then also with temperature. So that's the main proponent of this measurement. So we can deploy this and kind of get an understanding of what's going on directly under the asset, so we can plan appropriately for our sonar ranges for the day, as well as what frequency we should use.
Well, that's very interesting, and I assume that there are many more that you use, many different types of devices, and these are just a couple of examples.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ms. Gardner kind of mentioned the oceanographic ships that we have, and they are absolutely stacked out far and wide with the different capabilities, collection assets, as well as sensors on board. So this is just a couple of things that we use that are kind of on the cheaper side, and as well as are a bit expendable, because this buoy that we have here, the likelihood of us getting it back is pretty low, because either it will go out to sea and we won't be able to find it because it is so small. Sometimes it'll get damaged and unfortunately sink, or another asset will come and pick it up because they won't know what it is.
Or a kraken will eat it.
Or a kraken.
She just acknowledged that a kraken exists. I knew it. Tell me about visiting middle school classrooms in Jordan School District as part of your adventure.
So honestly, it's been a really great experience. We walked into a couple of different classes where the students looked at us and had no idea what we were wearing, because we showed up in our summer whites uniform, and it's not a very traditional thing that you see in Salt Lake City, Utah. So that's been the really great part about this outreach that the Navy's been able to do this week, is actually exposing some of the youth in Salt Lake City to what the Navy brings to the table, as well as all of the great STEM opportunities that we have. And I think it worked out really well, because we actually ended up having 4 women that are in STEM. So that's kind of shown the youth as well that there are a lot of STEM opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunities for women in the military as well.
That's a fantastic message, and I'm really grateful that you've spent the time with our students, and I was very excited to have this opportunity. What would you say to a student who's considering the Navy as a career?
So it's been a great opportunity for me to be able to continue my education, to be able to see the world, and to be able to meet people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet elsewise. So being able to work with people that are from places like California, which I had never been before this tour, or like New York, we're a great representation of kind of how you can pull people from all across the states, get us into a single location, and give us a similar goal and a similar mindset, and just watch us excel and grow. So that's been a great opportunity for me to be able to see. And also it just pushes you to be better. And there's nothing quite like watching the people that you work for work alongside, and the people that work for you succeed and grow and change and actually be able to accomplish things that they never thought they could. So that's been just the absolute stellar part about wearing the uniform every day, and I could not be luckier.
Outstanding. And how about the civilian connection with the Navy?
So, like I said before, as a civilian, I didn't even know that was an option. So I'm here to let everybody know that you can go to school and you can still work for the Navy, and they still give you lots of opportunities. So if traveling is not your thing, maybe working for the Navy as a civilian would be a better option.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for everything you've done to help support our students and open up their minds to some other possibilities and helping them learn a little bit more about the STEM that they're studying.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really lucky to be here.
We're here with Mr. Peterson, talking with him about the experience that he and his students have had in the classroom having the Navy visit. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the experience.
My name is Mr. Peterson, and we've had some people from the Navy come today, and we got to learn quite a bit about how the Navy operates and what they do for us.
My name is Isidro Pitayo, and I think that the best part of the Navy being here was learning about how fun it is to be in the Navy, and learning about what type of schooling they had to go to, and that was pretty cool. I thought.
Hi, my name is Zach Yates, and I think one of the coolest parts about the Navy was learning the different STEM career options that you're able to do while still being in the Navy and serving your country.
My name is Sage, and it was really, really cool to learn about the stuff they do because my dad was in the Navy before I was born, and he told me a bunch of stories when he did his stuff, and it's a lot different to hear it from other people.
What are some things about the ocean and weather that you learned that you didn't know before?
I learned that the weather and the ocean, honestly, it's almost completely unpredictable, but some of the technologies that we have these days make it a lot easier to predict or try to predict, but really it's all just a force of nature, and we have to try our best to accept that.
Same thing that Zach said.
I thought it was cool to learn about how many people work on trying to predict so many things about the weather, and about how unpredictable it is too. That's crazy.
Did it expand your mind having the Navy here to think about what some of the job opportunities might be for you in the future?
Yeah, definitely. It's so cool about all the different things that they do, and it's not just like sitting on a boat and just doing stuff in the ocean.
Oh yeah, completely. Like, if I joined the Navy, I could potentially do two things that I love, serving my country and working with machines.
I agree with that.
Well, thanks very much for taking the time, and have a great school year.
Oh yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Supercast. Remember, education is the most important thing you'll do today. We'll see you out there.